Compromising, of giving something up in some way? Or should authentic service always feel easy and natural?
Always easy and natural. We are not talking about sacrifice in that sense. Sacrifice would be to let go of a part of the self that you might actually need to be able to perform the services for others. So it's not about sacrifice. It's not about giving up a part of yourself that is important for you to retain, to be yourself, your authentic self. When you are being of service as your authentic self, when you are helping as your authentic self, it will always be smooth and easy and giving in a loving way. It is not about the idea of feeling deprived. If you feel deprived, then you are not necessarily going about it in a way that is actually service.
Okay, thank you. Is service something that we need or should surrender and give ourselves away to and do for free? Or is it all right to be paid and supported for our services? What's the role or distinction between volunteering versus the forms of service where we are working and getting paid?
It is absolutely fine to be paid for the services that you provide. When we talk about the idea of volunteering, it is mostly for the purpose of getting you to step outside your normal routine, getting you to start investigating and exploring what other connections you may not ordinarily think of making with people, with situations, to be able to expand your view and your perspective of what other people are going through in situations that might be unusual for you were you to simply continue in your normal routine. So the idea of the volunteering that we are talking about is to sort of get you outside yourself, outside your normal routines, to explore something new and different, where you can be of great help, be of great service to others in a new and unusual way. Especially for people on your planet who experience things like depression, it is one of the strongest ways that you can get out of your depression is by suddenly going into a voluntary situation where you now have to help other people who may be going through similar things, or even things that are more difficult or more strenuous than what you have been going through, so that you can gain some perspective and understand your relationship to the idea of the situations that those people may be experiencing. This is primarily the reason why we suggest the idea of the Interstellar Alliance Volunteer Corps. It doesn't mean that you cannot do things and be of service to people where you get compensated for it. Of course, that is the way that things work on your planet, as long as you are also willing to expand your understanding, as we have talked about in the past, of all the different ways that abundance can be defined, so that it's not just about the idea of money being paid in the typical sense, but the idea of being willing to open up and receive in any way, shape, or form that allows you to continue to follow your passion. So there's nothing wrong with that. And again, the volunteering that we're talking about is mostly to get people to change their routine, to get themselves out of themselves, to step outside their normal ideas, normal perspectives, to shake things up a little bit and give them an opportunity to walk in other people's shoes.
Okay. And this person is saying that sometimes when I try to follow my excitement and be of service or share something that I'm excited to share, I find that I can get stuck in perfectionism and self-doubt. For example, if I share something about astrology with someone, I worry about if I tell them something that isn't fully clear or it's wrong in some way or confuses them or it's not the right permission slip for them. I then hesitate to share anything at all or even just sharing about a TV show, a book, or something that I like with someone. Part of me worries that it might not be good or might not be right for them, or it just distracts them from their path and it's not the best thing I could share with them. So can you address can you talk about how it might be possible to relax around some of this?
Yes, well, you're taking responsibility for their responses rather than simply being responsible to them by being yourself. Of course, the sharing must always be where you sense it is appropriate to share these things, But remember that if they've been attracted into your life, then there is a reason that they're there. And this is where the idea also is that you can add caveats to anything that you share. You can always begin by saying, this is my perspective. This is my belief. This is what I've learned. It may or may not work for you, but I'm going to share this and you can decide whether or not it's appropriate for you. So as long as you lead anything you're sharing with that caveat, then you can relax because you have already prepared them to understand that while you're sharing an idea with them about anything, it's still that you're leaving it up to them to decide whether or not to apply it in their lives. But you can certainly take it on faith, so to speak, that the reason that they're in your life at all is because they're willing to hear what you have to say, willing to receive some of what it is you're willing to share, as long as you do it in an appropriate way. And again, give them the caveat that this is your perspective. You're just sharing it. In the event it may be of assistance to them, but you don't expect or insist on anything, and you can allow them to take it in whatever way, shape, or form they will, or to leave it behind. So as long as you make that clear, then you're free to share anything because they now know that you're not attempting to force it on them or insist that they must believe it. You're simply saying, hey, this is my life. This is what I've experienced. This is what I see. This is my perspective. And therefore, they are free to take it or leave it. So lighten up on yourself. Don't be so responsible for everyone's response. Just be responsible to them by being yourself.
Great. And then I think this is from the same person. In an earlier transmission, you discussed the idea of learning from and using past mistakes in order to move forward positively and be of service to humanity. But does our service always have to relate to the mistakes that we've made or experienced in the past? Or can we just bring what we've learned and who we've become forward in a more general way into how we are in the world and let that then connect us to the ways of being of service?
Yes, either is fine. Whatever seems appropriate. Sometimes the lessons that you have learned in a specific way may be relevant for helping others who also are going through those specific experiences. And therefore, at those times, it's appropriate to take the lessons from a specific experience and share it in a specific way, in the same way that you went through it. Otherwise, no, you don't have to. Whatever lessons you have learned can simply be used to share with people in ways that are of service to them without necessarily it being specific to the way that you learned the lessons. So no, it doesn't have to be the same, but allow synchronicity to bring to you the people in whatever way, shape, or form they need to experience it. They will let you know in what way they need to experience the information you have gained and the wisdom you have gained and the experience you have gained from learning the lessons you have learned. You'll be able to tell whether or not you need to couch it, shall we say, in the same way that you went through it in that particular discipline or subject, or whether you can simply take whatever you have learned and apply it in a different way according to what they bring with regard to their questions or their situation. So yes and no, it depends on the situation.
Okay. And does being of service always look like directly connecting to and helping others, teaching about something, or taking actions in the physical world in some way? Or are there also valid forms and ways of being of service energetically on our own, or even just through our own healing process, way of being in the world, etc.?
All of it. Don't leave anything out. Do the energy, heal yourself, and take the actions that are of service to others as well. It's not just one or the other. All of them are important. It's a holistic experience. So yes, you're helping by changing your own energy. Yes, you're helping others by healing yourself because you can't really help others unless you're helping yourself be a whole person. But the idea is don't shy away from taking the actions as an alternative. In other words, don't make action an alternative to simply dealing with your own energy. All of them are important. Have heard about, but again, find it challenging to understand or comprehend how such a thing is possible. It's not their path to understand that. It's the path of a first contact specialist or a social engineer to understand that. And therefore, they don't worry about it. They just don't really understand how to comprehend it.
And is it our path to remember, to figure out,
Yes,
remember?
yes, 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 yes. That's how you grow.
And is it by doing the formula that we can remember?
That's certainly the strongest way. That's why we give it to you. It's the simplest way that you don't have to overcomplicate or overthink. And within the formula, of course, there are many opportunities to be attracted to do things in the way that are representative of your individual passions that are unique to you. So within the formula, there are many, many, many unique ways of experiencing it, but the formula still works for all.
Wonderful. I'm interested in understanding how your people feel and perceive the excitement of meeting us when open contact happens on Earth.
We are very excited about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be engaging with you because, again, we only follow our passions. So the recognition of joining, as we have with many other civilizations, whether it be in a structured interstellar alliance or even a loose association or friendship, is expansive to us to allow us to experience different ways that different beings have of relating to the idea of existence. It expands our understanding. It expands our knowledge. It expands our experience. You have experiences we do not have, allowing us to experience some of those things, to understand how different beings can create challenges that allow them to discover things in a very different way than the way that we do or other civilizations do, is very exciting to discover because it adds to the overall uniqueness of all the different facets of all that is and allows us to understand more of all the ways that all that is has of experiencing itself, which expands our understanding of the infiniteness of all that is. This is very exciting to us.
Will music play a significant part in upcoming open contact? I heard about an event where ET ships respond to our music festival lights. Music is often a way that humans raise their vibrations. Is there any chance that we can witness a mass sighting with some of your representatives during a music festival? It would be great to see your lights in the sky joining the rhythm of our music.
Yes, this is quite possible and maybe very probable, not necessarily right away, but in the years to come.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the music festivals that you might like?
No.
Okay. What is your current ship height above Sedona?
Approximately 1,500 miles.
Are you at Bell Rock?
Above Bell Rock, yes. 1,500 miles above Bell Rock.
I've recently seen ships near my house that I've previously not seen. These ships appear to be descending lower to the ground. Is there a reason for this? What is happening?
Again, as you all expand your consciousness, you also sharpen your senses to start peering into other dimensions. These things have been around you all the time. Like I say, there's a lot of traffic around your planet. But the idea is that they have usually been outside the vibrational frequency of your senses. But as you expand your consciousness, you can start to see things that you couldn't see before.
Which country is open contact most likely to occur first as you read the energies now?
Who says there will be a first country? Who says open contact won't happen simultaneously all around your planet? Why would there just be one country? That's not open contact.
Right. Can you tell us more about a unique civilization in our galaxy that we've never heard of before?
One moment. One moment. We are looking for what might be most relevant. We have not told you yet about a civilization within the Interstellar Alliance that travels. These beings are in constant motion. They are not bipedal, they are quadrupedal. 4 legs, as you would understand it. They are constantly moving. Very rarely do they rest. Very rarely do they stop. Their world is patterned in such a way as to allow them to travel long distances. They do this as a matter of gathering information. They do this as a matter of learning. They are constantly, almost constantly on the move, even moving while they rest. They have the same kind of capacity that your dolphins have to have half of their brains sleep while the other half remains awake so that they can constantly move, constantly learn. These beings have created a society that exists within nature in such a way that they have, shall we say, guided nature, trained nature to create certain structures that they use as shelters that they can pass through. But most of these shelters are very long and tunnel-like because they keep moving. And the shelters provide for them information, entertainments, stories, experiences as they move through these long natural tunnels, either in the earth or made of their version of trees or plants. The beings are ranging in size from about the size of what you would call an medium-sized dog to the size of a small horse and sizes in between. They do have a head. They do have 2 eyes. They have, similar to the idea, as an extension off the face, a muzzle with nose and mouth, but they are not really dog-like. They are not really horse-like. It is quite different. They sometimes will wear certain kinds of drapings, but not really clothing as you understand it. The temperatures on their planet don't necessarily require them to wrap themselves in something to protect against the weather or the elements. It is generally relatively mild. They do have rain. It is rare that they experience things like snow. Therefore, you would find the environment there relatively pleasant, relatively even temperatured. These beings call themselves something that would translate to you in your language as the phrase moving with the wind. But we cannot replicate their language for you. It is completely non-human and requires the kinds of vocal cords that they have that cannot be replicated in a human body. But the translation of their name for themselves is like moving along with the wind. Does that answer your question?
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
You've spoken about stars and civilizations within the Milky Way, the Pleiades, Orion, Sirius. Have you traveled to other galaxies outside the Milky Way?
Our civilization and many members of it have had experiences in other galaxies, the Magellanic Clouds, as you call them, and even the idea of the Andromeda Galaxy. It is relatively rare that we venture outside what you call the Milky Way galaxy, but again, do remember that we are in our natural state, another parallel reality altogether. There are some slightly different configurations of galaxies in our reality that you don't have in yours, and we have visited some of those as well. But it is rare that we venture beyond the edge of the galaxy that you would call the Milky Way galaxy in our reality.